Good night, good night. I was just listening to Kendra D or Crimson Cure, and she was doing a video on a woman who is 46 and is, in the parking lot crying because she has to have a surgery, and she doesn't have anybody that's going to take care of her. She just realizes it. And that made me think about one of my what I call my pet peeves, or I like to call one of my mommy issues. You always have mommy or daddy issues and stuff like that. Things that happened in your childhood and you were like, I never want that to happen to me again, blah, blah, blah. So one of my mommy issues is not people not listening to me and then coming back. So one, people not listening to me. And then two, people that come back, like, okay, if you don't listen to me, all right. But then they come back and they saddle me with their problems. Like, I had that issue today with my job where I'm like, listen, I'm talking and I'm telling the, the project owners and everything else like that, what's going on. We need to do this. We need to bring this guy back, so on and so forth. And, to their point, they said, hey, listen, we can't bring this guy back because he doesn't want to come back. And I'm like, okay. But I had already talked to the guy and he pretty much said that, but he was just like, but I'm like, yo, man, if you just throw him some money, try again. If you want this stuff done by X, Y, and Z time, you're gonna have to bring this person back. Otherwise, you're fucked. And don't expect me to try and deliver something that I explained it to him like this. Essentially, we have an unfinished building with no plans, no blueprints, no drawings whatsoever, and then the architect is gone. How do you expect me to build from that? So, anyways, but it's a pet peeve when you saddle me with the, figuring things out, getting into work because somebody on the team wants to be a fucking asshole, and now you're shit out of luck. You're ass the fuck out, and the wind is blowing, bitch. And then you got me, you're putting it on me, right? Hey, do you think you can get this done by this time? Bitch, no. But that's the problem. When people start to put things on you, okay, in terms of this woman, she's putting things on, people that are listening to her. She'll make all these comments and, and little videos and things like that about people not, about dating and relationships and so on and so forth. But then she was real with the people that usually listens to her or follows her. And she said, listen, I have nobody. And now I got to deal with it. Now it's I got to depend on my mom, who's older than me, probably by 20 something years, at least 18 or 16, 18, sometimes 14. Right. And then I also have to depend on even my siblings. And it's they got their own life to live. And I got to depend on these people because I didn't want to make the investment. And this is how I interpret it. She didn't want to make the investment to actually, invest time into a person that will be there to take care of her. Everything was always, you could do better. And Kendra pointed that out, and masterfully so. But my thing is, and this is where, my gripe comes in, is that the reason for the MGTOW retirement series is because of this very same thing. I remember when I first started that series, the series was mainly called, it was just what happens when you get sick. And I think I made two or three parts, and then I changed, the way I did it and try to make it a little bit more solutions oriented and not so much on the feeling side of things. And it was received a little bit better, especially by men. So when I see this, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is the same thing that I was talking about. And it's not to say I remember I got some pushback from it because people misunderstood what I was trying to say. But what I was really trying, my biggest thing is, at some point you're going to have to take care of yourself. And I'll probably put this under the MGTOW retirement category. But at some point you're going to have to take care of yourself if you're going to lead this life of being a MGTOW. Lead this life of being a single person, a bachelor, whatever the fucking word you want to use for it, you know? But you're not putting up with some woman's shit. You're not going to invest the time nor the money to put into this person so that they can grow along with you. You're not going to do it, right? No matter how good it sounds, but it's like you look at the deal, it doesn't make any sense, and you're looking at, you know, the things that you built, and you don't want to lose half of it because of somebody's emotions, right? And then that person has all the power. You know, the laws need to change. Ed talks about this all the time. If you want this from men, you need to sacrifice your rights. You need, not even rights, but you need to sacrifice your privileges. And that's the biggest thing. It's just like, all right, cool. What if, and what do I mean by sacrifice my privileges, right? Say you're in a situation where you need to save money. You only have, say, one vehicle. Or you can only afford to keep one vehicle. You have to get rid of one. So you're going to have to give up that privilege of having a vehicle. You know, they say driving is a privilege, not a right. It's the same thing, right? Or same kind of concept. You're going to have to give up that privilege of having a vehicle, so you can save money on the monthly car note, the insurance, the upkeep, fueling it, and, you know, whatever else comes with those are the 4 major things, really. But you're going to have to save that money. And what's going to happen is, because you save that money, now you can go ahead and take that same money and then go ahead and put it towards something that is actually going to benefit you, or benefit you in the long run. Like, for instance, what if I said you give up your Honda today so you can get a Benz tomorrow? You know, some people would take it, but, you know, it's not, tomorrow isn't next week. It isn't always guaranteed. It isn't a finite time. It isn't like, hey, listen, you know, it's going to be 2 weeks and 5 days for you to get for you to get this Mercedes. It might be a couple years before you do that. So you're going to have to do an Uber or something else like that. So when you deal with things like that, and you approach it and say, hey, listen, I might have to give this up just so I can be in a better position later on in life. And not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to run that calculation. Not everybody wants to say, hey, listen, you know, I want to put myself in a better situation. So for me to do that, I'm going to actually have to be in a worse situation in the immediate/near future. No child fights alone. Oh, that's cool. In the immediate/near future, right? And that's the thing that a lot of people are not willing to do, you know, in terms of putting themselves in the right position, putting themselves in, just backing in here, sorry. Put themselves in the right position to actually be successful later on. So if you're going to go down the road of like a MGTOW retirement, like I talk about, or being quote unquote, you know, a loner and all that other stuff, well, you're going to have to do a lot of work ahead of time. You're going to have to make sacrifices now so that you can have spending power, or you're going to have to give up, you know, spending power now just so you can actually do something later. And it's very important to actually understand these concepts and accept that, because a lot of people don't. And then, you know, they don't invest in a significant other, a loved one. But at the end of the day, if you have your money with you, then you can afford for a nurse, proper insurance, healthcare as you get older, things like that. Now, it is not, I wasn't taught for that to be, you know, what I do, like, you know, that value system, or have that, you know, thought process. Like, that isn't normal to me, right? But at the same time, moving forward, you know, in, you know, our current environment, you're gonna have to do that. That's gonna be the quote unquote calculus, the algebras, or the calculus that, you know, it's a different type of calculus, as, you know, to quote Kevin Samuels. And if people aren't ready to actually do that math and go through those transactions and do what's necessary, you're going to be fucked. And that's just how it is. So if you're not willing to do that, good luck. But you'll probably be ending up alone and not in a good situation at all, because you don't want to actually do the work now to actually make those investments in another person. All right, with that being said, I am going to head into the gym and make that investment so that I can actually be fucking around to enjoy some of the sacrifices that I'm making today in terms of, dealing with bullshit and doing more jobs and working and all this other stuff. With that being said, peace. Love you all.